Now let's start by going live to the climate talks in Paris, where delegates have approved an historic climate change agreement to limit the effects of global warming. This is the scene at the conference hall near the French capital. It's taken almost 2 weeks of intensive negotiations involving 195 countries to agree on a number of points, including a cap on global temperature rises at less than 2 degrees Celsius. Well, Simon McGregor-Wood has been following the conference since it began just under 2 weeks ago and joins us now with the latest. Simon.
Hi Paul, as you see from that huge plenary hall, a number of summing up speeches being given by various delegates representing some of the groups, some of the country blocs that formed alliances throughout this tortuous negotiating process, each of them pooling their resources in terms of their negotiating positions, but in the end, crucially, all of them agreeing to sign up to this document. We had some indication of that earlier in the afternoon. There was optimism in the air when this final fourth version of the deal was presented on Saturday morning by Laurent Fabius, the president of this conference, with his boss, François Hollande and Ban Ki-moon, all giving impassioned speeches in support of the deal, encouraging all 190 odd countries and their delegates to support it. And during the course of the afternoon, we were getting the sense that more and more blocks of countries were signing up to it. The G77, a couple of hours ago, that huge group, over 100 countries, included China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and other big industrializing nations. The US publicly stated they would be supporting it, the European Union and others. And then, of course, in this last hour, 6:26 p.m. Paris time, I think, Laurent Fabius banged the gavel on the table and the wild celebrations began. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about the deal with someone who's been campaigning for a tough climate change deal for many years, Mohammed Adow, the senior climate change advisor for the charity Christian Aid. Mohammed, lots of celebrations, lots of relief, a good deal by most people's accounts. What do you like about the deal, and what do you think about the deal could have been better?
This is a historic deal. We're seeing all countries of the world making a political commitment to reduce their emissions and deal with the impact of climate change. All countries, rich and poor, have all signed up to the deal, showing their commitment, showing that they really mean business and are starting to take climate change more seriously with actions to reduce emissions, but also plans to help their communities adapt to the inevitable changes.
There was a sense here, as it was being presented, that this was the last chance for the world to act together on this one. Some of the wording has been described by some people as a bit woolly, a bit vague. Do you accept that as a criticism of the document?
I think this is a very solid document that sets out clearly the direction of travel the world is taking. We have a clear long-term goal that binds all countries to hold global warming to below 2 degrees. But more importantly, actually references 1.5 degree that has been called for by over 120 countries, those that are most vulnerable to climate change. We have commitments to provide climate finance to the most vulnerable countries to help them adapt, but more importantly also develop in a clean and sustainable manner. We have a number of hooks that gives us hope that countries will actually be able to ramp up their ambition. One thing we need to realize is the deal as it is not strong enough in terms of the emissions reductions. But there are enough hooks in there that gives us a hope, that gives us opportunity that countries will come back to the table and ramp up their actions.
So this is the beginning of something new rather than an end in itself. One of the contentious issues we understood during the final phases of negotiations was this familiar problem of differentiation, based on a rather old-fashioned, perhaps, classification of what's a developed country and what's a developing country, and perhaps it's time for the bigger developing countries to make a contribution into the financial fund and things like that. Do you think that's been resolved satisfactorily this time?
I think the deal ushers a new era where all countries, rich and poor, developed and developing, are all contributing to the global effort that is required. What we're seeing now is a new cooperation that is built on all countries wanting to contribute cooperatively towards the effort. The classic developing north-south is actually slowly giving way to a more positive visionary cooperation. We have the richest of countries like US joining for the first time a global deal that commits them to binding emission reduction. You have to recall that they didn't sign up to Kyoto. You have the biggest polluter, in this case China, also joining in to contribute to climate actions. You have some of the most vulnerable, least developed countries, the small island states that are sinking under the waves, all joining in, not just waiting to get a bit of support, but actually contributing with their own actions. And that basically puts us in a new geopolitical map, where we are all actors and we are all winners and are all actually stakeholders in this deal.
Mohammed, thank you very much. It's obviously very inspiring to hear you talk so enthusiastically about the deal. Let's all hope that those fine words and sentiments being expressed here and enshrined for the first time in this universally accepted document quickly convert to real action to fulfill all the countries' pledges that they've made. I think the sense here is very clear that this is a very important day, a very historic deal, but it shouldn't be seen as the end. It is a platform for changing the direction that the world has been travelling in, away from fossil fuels forever.
Harris, thank you very much for the update there.